So I hear you want to get away with murder and master the art of killing. Well, it won't be easy, but I can share with you my tips for being an effective imposter in Among Us. Hi everyone, welcome to Prime Star Media. I'm your host Clay, and if you find this video helpful today, go ahead and click that like button down below so we at the channel can make more Among Us content. And with that being said, let's get into the video. Alright guys, first thing I'm going to cover on my list is something a lot of people overlook, but is using the admin map. Now, using the admin map as an imposter works a little bit differently than it is with using it as a crew member, but what you'll find is it's actually a little bit easier to use as an imposter. The reason being, as a crew member, you're going to be looking for people venting or teleporting across the map, and as an imposter, you're just going to be looking for people that are kind of separated or just alone by themselves on a certain portion of the ship. Now, if you're wanting to use the admin, the best times to use it is actually mid to late game, because in the early game, it's not going to be as beneficial just because, all the crew members are going to be rushing around trying to do their tasks. So what I would actually recommend is just holding off on using admin until at least 2 to 3 kills into the game. Now, there is another thing you should be cautious about when using admin, is if there's other people in the room and they're also looking at admin and they see you leave and you go straight towards someone that's alone, they're pretty much going to know you're the imposter at that point. So just try to be cautious when doing this strat, because it can be pretty difficult to pull off when you're going against more experienced players. And the last thing you want to do while playing the imposter is to draw more attention to yourself. Then, next thing up on our list is letting the crew members fight amongst themselves. Now, this is guaranteed to happen every game, so it's not very hard to pull off. But one thing you want to keep in mind is you don't want to draw attention to yourself when voting. So all you'll really need to do is just vote with everyone else and let them do all the work for you, because red will definitely accuse green at some point in the game, or blue will accuse orange of following him too closely. So a great way to pull this off is just by blending in with everyone else. Now, that could be easier said than done. However, I've found out through my playthroughs, the more you talk in chat, the more likely it is they'll try to vote you out. So you'll just need to stay quiet majority of the time unless you're directly being spoken to. And for whatever reason you do get accused of being overly quiet in the chat, all you have to do is just say, "Hey, I was texting," or something along those lines, and you should be able to get away with it. This is especially true if you go into the game with a teammate, because they'll be able to provide evidence in order to back you up against any of the accusations the crew members have made about you. Speaking of using your teammates, try to coordinate attacks with each other. Now, this can be extremely tricky at first, but the more experienced you and your teammate are, the easier it'll be to pull this off. And going back to what I said earlier about defending your teammates when you go to vote, this is extremely important, but you don't want to be caught defending them if the evidence against them is overwhelming. If you do end up running into this situation, all you have to do is just vote against your teammate, just because it's better for you to stay alive a few more rounds and have a chance at victory rather than getting voted out the next round. Now, we're about to get into one of the tips that I think is one of the most important, so if you take anything away from this video, please take away this, but it's properly using the vents to kill. The vents are one of the fastest methods of travel in the entire game, meaning you'll be able to traverse the map effortlessly. Not to mention, you'll easily be able to pull off an ambush, and if you're looking for a more risky gameplay style, you can easily pop in and out of vents, killing targets rapidly and then popping back in them. Now, what really makes using the vents challenging is the fact that you need a large amount of awareness when popping out of the vent. Because if you're not actively watching who's going into what room, there's a likely chance that they'll be able to see you when you're coming out of vent. Not only that, but you'll also have to take into account if someone's watching admin or if they're in security watching cameras. And despite the chances you're taking of getting caught when coming in and out of vents, there's a small little factor that makes this a little bit harder to pull off, and that being the fact that your ability to kill doesn't charge while you're in vents. One of the things I can actually recommend when you're dealing with this problem, though, is after you make the kill, go ahead and vent away into a different room. That way you're able to charge up your kill ability and then set off a sabotage on the opposite side of the map of where you got the kill. This will just buy you a little bit more time, and it will also keep the crew members from finding the body. Alright guys, we're on our last and final tip, but lie as much as you can. The only thing that should be on your mind is self-preservation. This is the driving force that will win you the game. Even if you can only buy yourself one more round of voting, you need to do it, because It could be the deciding factor whether or not you win the game or lose the game. Now, something that I found that works really well, especially in the early game, is self-reporting. This is a really great way to throw everyone off your trail. Not to mention, if you play this right, you might be able to get another person voted out, especially if other crew members are already suspected of being the imposter. Just keep in mind when using this strategy, more experienced players might be able to see through it pretty easily. So try to avoid running around with one person for a long duration of time, because if you were to kill them and someone notices that you've been running around with Red all game and Red happened to die, you'll end up being their number one suspect. Another thing you should try avoiding while playing the imposter is making any hard accusations. The reason being is as soon as you start making accusations towards other crew members, the more suspicious you'll look in their eyes, so this will lead the other crew members to vote you out the next time around. That's all the tips I have today for playing the imposter in Among Us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me down in the comment section down below if you found any of these tips useful today. And if you did, consider subscribing to the channel so I can make more Among Us content. And with that being said, I hope all of you have an awesome day. Peace.